The Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century presents
Space, the final frontier.
Hailing frequencies open, sir.
Welcome in, podcast pioneers, to Trekking in the 25th Century. This is our Star Trek show, available only on the Hyperspace Podcast Network. My name is Jared.
I'm Mike.
Mike, you had this great idea to do a show because our good buddy Matt had another case of the tube trots.
Oh, I thought he got caught in the transporter malfunction.
Why do you have to say that so soon into the show and haunt my nightmares? No, but we thought, being Star Trek fans, that we would start this new show, Trekking in the 25th Century, and
Keep on trekking.
yes, keep on trekking, and do episode commentaries every once in a while. I'm not sure how often Trekking in the 25th Century will keep trekking, but we figure it's a good way to talk Star Trek and to keep the episodes coming out to you. So today, Mike.
Has nothing to do with Matt canceling on us at the last second.
No, it has nothing to do with
Doing
that.
a quick scramble.
There's nothing to do with that. But hey, we make lemonade out of lemons sometimes. And I think this is going to be a particularly good batch of lemonade, because tonight we are going to be talking about, Mike, which episode of the original series?
The second pilot, Where No Man Has Gone Before. The one that, after doing the first pilot, the network was like, Gene, we think you got something here. Why don't you give it another go?
So, yeah, they said, and this was very unusual for the time, that you would get a second chance. If you shot a pilot and they didn't like it, well, the pilot usually, I mean, if you were lucky, it got turned into a movie of the week, and it was at least seen by people.
And
But most of the
goodbye.
most of the time, these pilots are relegated to the dustbin of history. But it's interesting in the 21st century. A lot of these unseen pilots from like the 50s and 60s, they're popping up in places like YouTube, and you could see these really these relics of a bygone age of television finally are seeing the light of day, just being leaked out there by someone or something else like that. But the second Star Trek pilot is actually quite famous. It was the first pilot that when it was made into part of the two-part episode, The Menagerie.
And I just want to say up front, the cage by itself, I think, is actually a pretty spectacular episode of Star Trek.
The cage is good. I like the cage. However, I must admit, it's rare that I just sit down and watch the cage. It's usually in the context of The Menagerie, which actually was quite an ingenious use of the first pilot, folding it into this story that they could use within the confines of the series that Star Trek became. And they were able to, essentially not have to just write off a 90-minute episode of Star Trek. And they were able to make it into the only two-parter of the original series. But we get ahead of ourselves because we're not
a little
talking.
bit of backstory.
Yeah. And it should be noted, I'm sitting here with my copy of the first print of the Star Trek Compendium. I have all three printings of this particular book. I found this one just a few weeks ago at a used bookstore here in.
Oh, really? How much was it?
It was $10, but
Oh, okay.
it was actually like sealed in like a oversized like comic bag and
Oh,
everything.
wow.
It's in great shape. This was published in, I believe, 19 um 1981 was the first edition of the Star Trek Compendium. Now, when I
Does it
was
have the motion picture in it?
yes, I believe it does. And it talks teasingly about Star Trek 2. But
Electric Boogaloo.
yes, but I found differences. I have like I said, I have all three versions of this book, and it's an excellent book. It's an excellent resource for anyone. I mean,
I'm actually reading through it as I'm going through the entire. I'm actually on the third series, but I'm going through this seasons, and I'm reading that book you hold in your hand. Although I have the last edition that includes Undiscovered Country.
and it has the white cover, right?
And, yes, and I have, and I'm also going to Boldly Go. Is that what it is, or is it These Are the Voyages? I get the two mixed up.
These Are the Voyages that's the very comprehensive
Yeah, that
one.
is a great read to watch, to read after watching an episode and kind of get the whole. I mean, you get like the whole
Yeah, you
shebang.
get call sheets and budgets, and I mean it is very granular, but a great book. All three of those, they wrote three of them, and they're all fantastic. And I'm reading one now on and off that's set in the 1970s, sort of between.
Oh
It's
yeah, is it
sort
like the fourth one?
Yes, and it just goes through a lot of the failed pilots that Roddenberry did in the 70s leading up to the motion picture. But it's a pretty interesting read. Although I must admit, I go in and out of it occasionally and read something else, or and,
So
it's not exactly a page turner, but it's interesting. Um, but I have this book here, and I thought it would be interesting to have a couple of some reference at the ready. But what we're talking about now is going to be, uh, like Mike said, the second pilot, the one that the first episode featuring James Tiberius Kirk.
although
Um,
he had a different middle name.
yes, he had R. R was his middle initial in this episode because he was not yet James T. Kirk. He was James R. Kirk. But you know, who knows? Who knows? There's all kinds of backstory about that. But before we start watching the episode, it's interesting to note a few things that they used a lot of things from The Cage in this episode. That was actually one of the provisos of them making this episode. That a lot of the sets that were still standing could be reused in this episode. The uniforms are the Cage uniforms, which are distinctly different from the episodes that the original series would come to be known for. The Enterprise, however, um, well, the actual shooting model, the Enterprise ship, was was the same one that was in the Cage, and that Enterprise also is different from the Enterprise that eventually appears in the TV series. There's some differences in the nacelles and the deflector dish at the front, but those are all just sort of little interesting oddities. And this was actually the first episode shot, but the third one aired.
Yeah,
Which
they did not air them in broadcast order.
No,
I mean, that wait, hold on, in production order.
yes. And I've always preferred, as I am revisiting the original series, to watch them in production order,
I agree.
because watching them in broadcast order is a bit jarring. Because in these first few episodes, probably the first 3 to 4 episodes filmed, these guys are still figuring things out. Nimoy's not quite there with Spock. A lot of it's there, but there's some distinct differences. Um, Of course, the look of the show changes dramatically from where no man has gone before into the Corbomite maneuver. Um, the uniforms change, the lighting changes. It's like a totally new show. But
Was
I found
Fitterman the DP on the second pilot?
I don't think he was on the second pilot. No, but anyway, these differences are fascinating when watching the show in production order. And I think as we go through these commentaries, as we trek through the 25th century, I'm not sure if we'll be jumping around or if we'll be going in any sort of chronological order. But anyway, I thought it was interesting to note that this was the third episode broadcast on September 22nd, 1966.
Yeah, and if you watch them in that broadcast order, that third episode,
It's like, whoa,
what
what?
in the world?
Why does everybody look like this? Why does Spock have eyebrows that reach up to the ceiling?
And he's being all smug and smiling.
Yes. Oh, yes. What of your Earth emotion?
Now, I think we should point out that we will be reviewing watching the version with the updated effects.
Yes.
Which is the version I actually prefer.
Yeah. Although I'm glad to have the option of
I go back and peek back and forth. And if we ever get to do if we ever get as far as Spock's brain, there is something we can talk about as far as the difference because of the way they use the shots. But we're not going to go into that now.
Spock's brain, that's way in the future.
If we ever
that could be an episode coming out in 2037, perhaps. But anyway, so me and, like Mike said, we are going to be watching the remastered version. We are watching a digital version of the show. If you prefer to follow along at home on Paramount Plus or something like that, it shouldn't be too much different. And we'll be doing scene specific, and we'll also, as we do, you don't necessarily have to be watching the episode to listen to the podcast. If you're a Star Trek fan and you enjoy Star Trek and enjoy listening to nerds talk about Star Trek, this is for you as well. You don't have to be sitting here watching it along with us. But anyway, Mike, are you ready to go where no man has gone before?
Standing by.
All right. I will count down to 0 and we will hit play. 3, 2, 1, 0.
Playing.
All right.
Updated shot of the Great Barrier.
The barrier.
Now, I've always wondered, is this the same barrier we see in Star Trek V?
No,
Okay.
because this is a barrier at the end of the galaxy, at the fringes, and the Great Barrier encompasses the core of the galaxy.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes.
Here we are with the sweaters.
Yes, the sweaters, the cage uniforms. If you notice, Kirk's uniform is more gold than the beige uniforms of the people in the background.
Yes.
Kirk and Spock have command gold on.
Here's the first appearance of the 3D chess.
Yes.
Yes. Kind of smiley there.
Yes. He's a little too emotional here.
And he just got...
Yeah. He's like...
I love the outfits in the background. They look like they're going to a beach party.
Yes, the beach party in 1965.
You see quite a bit of that around.
Yes. It's like casual clothes are the same as 1960s clothes.
We're going to the beach party afterwards, after our shift.
This looks like he's on one of those TVs from the 80s, one of those giant projection televisions. I like the picture of the galaxy.
Scotty.
First appearance of Mr. Scott. I've often wondered how long, at the point we picked them up here, how long has the mission been going on?
I don't know. They don't really clarify that.
No. I always, in my head canon, I always said they've been out here almost a year.
Yeah, I think that seems Kirk's pretty comfortable. Everyone seems pretty
Yes.
comfortable with each
And
other.
and this crew is unique to this episode, really.
Yes.
You've got Mr. Kelso, you got, of course, Gary Mitchell, and Kirk seems very familiar with all these people.
Well, yeah, we have some backstory coming up.
Mm-hmm. Ba-ba-ba-ba.
Oh,
There
yeah.
we go.
Great score. And
The
then the iconic
Space. The Final Frontier.
Every time I watch an episode, I never pass.
You never skip?
No, can't. It's part of the experience.
I would agree with that. It's interesting to note that they have, in the remastered version, of course, the Enterprise is completely computer generated, but they went with the Cage Enterprise in this episode.
Oh, did they?
They didn't update it to just make it match the rest of the series. They kept it the Cage version.
Now, was the broadcast version like that, or?
Yes, they used
Okay.
it was the Cage version of the Enterprise.
It's hard to
So-
believe that this is a McCoy-less episode.
I know. I mean, we've got.
I think that green jumpsuit survived in other episodes.
They
Didn't it?
might have. Yeah, and they did make adjustments to the interior of the Enterprise from the
There's-
Cage to here. They added the red doors and more color. How you doing? I was just killed by HAL 9000, and they picked me up on the fringes of space.
Gary Lockwood's very, very good in this episode.
Yeah,
They really do a good job of just instantly connecting Kirk and him with the backstory of their friendship.
yeah, and him and Shatner have a great chemistry that you believe it.
Yeah.
Because
I just want to say here now, I think this is a really great episode.
I do too. It's very atmospheric.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that the Cage and this have in common. They have very thick atmospheres.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like something that you don't really get in the other episodes.
Yes,
Lockwood's very casual with the way he operates his panel.
he just waves his hand in front
Yeah,
of him.
he's
And
done it
I
a-
mean, hey,
He's
maybe
done
that
it 100 times.
Intercraft open. Kirk still has the Cage little microphone on.
Yeah. It
That
almost
is
looks like a desk lamp.
Yeah, it probably is.
The very attractive, two very attractive blondes on the
Mhm.
bridge right now. Now, there's something coming up that really bugs me about this episode, but we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Now, ESP is something they never really revisited in
Correct.
this show. There's Cthulhu.
Sulu's there in a not as the helmsman.
Yeah, he's like a
He
mathematician or something.
yeah. And what's this doctor's name?
Oh, what is his name?
It's Boyce is the one from the Cage. I can't remember.
Doesn't he come back as a? No, that's not. I thought he came back. He does not come back in
No,
another.
this is his only appearance. There were a couple of Star Trek novels that took place in this time period where it dealt with this specific crew.
Well, I know there's a trilogy that kind of was about Kirk's academy days and him and Gary's,
Yes,
but
which
those were.
I thought they were pretty good.
I thought they were okay.
They're not. No Star Trek novel is completely canon, but they are good for sort of filling in the white spaces.
Yeah, I mean they're yeah. I think we've kind of been a little more forgiving with the whole inconsistencies at this point.
Yeah, I've
They're kind of like
well
fairy tales.
the I always thought it was the noises that Spock was listening to. Like he's just listening to sounds. How was he? This must be garbled.
I think that was just bridge background.
It could be, but see, this is always a little creepy to me.
Oh yeah, this is very. They do a really great job of setting up what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Like everyone's freaking out, and they're kind of like, "Oh, what's that about?"
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the name of that stupid doctor's name. It's like driving me crazy.
So Dr. Piper?
I bet that's it.
I think he calls him Mark.
It's Piper.
He calls him Mark too in the episode. It's interesting to note that there was a book called Enterprise: The First Adventure, and
yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's Vonda McIntyre, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And it actually McCoy was on the ship, but Piper came on for him. He came on the ship and then he left for some other, I think, to deal with his divorce or something, and that's why that sort of explains in the book McCoy's absence in this episode.
Is there ever a book to explain Khan recognizing Chekhov? We used to joke that he saw him in the bathroom.
Yeah. I grow fatigued. Chekhov.
A lot of yelling here.
Yeah. Spock is totally yelling. Man, this part drives me crazy. Where he grabs the girl's hand. He's flying the ship, and then he flies the girl's hand. Flies the ship. Holds the girl's hand. I'm like, dude, you need to... Well, I thought Kelso's the helmsman. Mitchell's the navigator.
Still, it's just weird. I think.
Well, it's not like he has to hold a steering wheel.
I know, but come on. It's not very professional.
Well, Mitchell seems like he's not very professional.
Yeah, he immediately starts flirting with Kellerman's character. Hey, you're a refrigerator.
A walking freezer unit.
Wow,
boom.
That's a pretty impressive pyrotechnics there.
I
That's
know.
a pretty good shot of
the barrier,
the view screen. It's almost like it's coming through the monitor.
Yeah. Spock is yelling.
Don't worry about the fire over there. It's okay. Oh.
Uh-oh.
What is that?
Uh-oh. Ah, crap.
Kirk takes over. He's like James Cameron. He knows all the positions. Spock jumps in. I think back then, whenever they used that smoke effects, they were like, use this like really toxic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was like, just like cigar smoke.
It's like cancer.
It's like totally gone now, if you notice in this shot. You know, it's interesting that Kellerman has just recently started doing conventions.
Oh, is she still alive?
Yeah.
Yeah, she also would become famous for playing the part of Hot Lips in the MASH movie.
Yep. Uh-oh, here's Gary.
The big... Apparently these contacts were like miserable.
Yeah, he couldn't wear them for more than like a minute or two.
It was back when I guess they weren't porous.
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't any oxygen getting to his eyes.
Yeah, it was torturous.
But I like the way he plays it. I mean, whenever he just looks aloof whenever he's speaking. That's a cool shot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a shot specific to the remaster. That was not ever a shot from the original show. Man,
nope, it's ruined.
This actor who plays Kelso, you got to think, oh, why'd you have to kill me in the pilot? He's like, come on, I could I could have been doing conventions and making my living.
Now I love these
These,
paper,
these typewritten, like done in a typewriter.
and they underline like.
Yes, and they're circled.
This is aged well.
Yeah, there's just.
I was griping to my wife today about how the boys are doing all their work on their laptops now.
Yep.
Can't they just use paper and pencil?
Nope, no more of that. It's all tablets and laptops.
Yes.
Gary Mitchell.
See, I love all this. I mean, this is all really good writing.
Man.
See, already they're threatening or setting up a possibility of a threat.
Yeah. And Spock is just not having it.
No, and he's really the.
Although,
go ahead.
You go.
I was just saying that's really where his character is emotionless, so he's able to just instantly like, we might have a problem here.
Yeah.
With his awesome remote control.
Yeah, e-readers today are a little more advanced than this. This is kind of like the old TVs they used to have in airports attached to the chairs. Put a quarter in and watch your favorite program. Hello, Jim.
You can tell like everyone smoked back then because they all got yellow teeth.
Yeah, Gary Lockwood had he had already done 2001 by the time he did this.
Now, had it been released?
2001 was released in 66, I think. Let me double check that. Okay, it was released in 68, so a couple years after this, but I could have sworn he'd already shot it, but I could be wrong about that. Oh, sink.
See, that's all good stuff here, right? This is.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Kirk.
Now, isn't the implication that this is
Carol Marcus
that he's talking about?
Yeah.
I like the fact that he basically like pimped some girl out.
Exactly. He's like, hey.
Yeah. Oh, the 60s. Oh, Gene.
I was trying to loosen you up so you weren't such a hard-ass professor. And it's interesting that Kirk seems to be, according to Mitchell, he was teaching classes and a bit of a uptight nerd.
Yeah, that's one of those books I was talking about. They go into that.
Yeah.
Because like Gary's sort of a prankster.
Which is not at all like the Chris Pine portrayal of him, who's getting in bar fights and stuff like that.
Well, his life took a detour.
Well, yeah, it's a different character. But didn't I say? What? Yeah, Gary, sure. He's just like, yeah, man.
I love that shot where Spock's watching him read.
Yeah. Look, you can see it, the thing blinking in his eye. You see that? It's blinking off of his contact lens.
Glass lens. So he's inside he's screaming to have those things taken out.
It's interesting though.
I love this music though, like this.
It's building. Dum 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 dum.
And then he does that awesome creepy look into the camera. But see, but the thing too that works is Kirk he's no dummy.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, yeah, we might have a problem
here. Hey, what are you looking at, Jim? He just turns and like, hey, how's it going, Jim? But You know, this being the first episode of the series proper, some things they hadn't figured out yet. Um, you know, they talk about these ESPR ratings and people with ESP. Then, of course, you would think Vulcans. Vulcans.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about
Vulcans.
that.
Like, you got to think Spock would probably bury these guys because it's part of his like biology.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he probably would have been affected too.
Yes, but you know they hadn't really delved into that part of Vulcans yet, so they hadn't gotten that worked out.
Yeah, I never thought of that because I mean, he goes full on into like controlling people,
Yes.
like in the Omega Glory, one of the
Yeah.
stellar episodes.
The Yangs and the I forget. Uh-oh. Ba-dum.
It's a really great episode because he really, it really puts you in that mindset of like, here's this person that all of a sudden, not only do they become just super powerful, they they lose their sense of morality.
Yeah. Absolute power corrupting absolutely. What you were saying earlier about the contacts affecting the way he moved his head, that's the only way he could see out of them, is if he leaned his head back.
Yeah, wasn't there like just a tiny little hole?
Yes,
in them, so
but it worked for his performance because it looked like he was looking down on people.
Yeah, it really works, really great. Oh, Gary, you trickster!
He's like, yeah, well, I'm not dead now. Then he sniffs his finger. Oh, what? Oh man. What's...
So she's only just now started doing conventions?
In the past like year or so.
Really?
Yeah, they showed there was like a video clip of her and Shatner seeing each other at one of these things, and you know, they were goofing.
Is Lockwood still alive?
He is. Although I tell you what, like, he is almost unrecognizable as Gary Lockwood. Like, his physical appearance completely changed when he got older.
Hasn't he kind of like gained
He gained some weight, but just, you know, even just looking at his face, if you put them side by side, you wouldn't even think they were related. You're like, these are just two different people.
And that's what's interesting about Shatner is even though he's an older, little more bloated version of himself, there's no doubt.
No, he still looks like William Shatner. Yeah. I'll see if I can find a picture of him.
Now he's done the conventions too, hasn't he?
Yes, he's been at some. I remember he was in when we lived in Nashville. It was shortly before I moved away. He was doing a sci-fi convention there, like in Antioch, where we lived.
Oh, really? Yeah, I see
Yeah.
a picture of him.
Yeah,
I
he does.
see a little bit. This one right here, it doesn't look anything like himself.
And surely doesn't sound like himself. His voice is totally different. Him and Keir Dullea do a commentary on 2001 together.
I need to listen to that.
And Gary Lockwood, Keir Dullea still sounds like himself, but Gary Lockwood's voice has completely changed.
Well, he was the one when they brought him back for 2010. How many years was between those two movies?
Probably, I think there were a good, 15, 16
He
years.
looked exactly the same.
I know. Like, that was like a magic trick. Like, and back then there's no CGI, there's nothing. It's just like, holy crap, it looks exactly the same. Oh, poor Lee Kelso. I mean, and this guy, he's got a presence. He's got charisma.
No, I like
Lee.
You know what? But the thing about that's what makes his death it's so effective.
Yeah.
Here he is. Fool. I'm serious.
I remember reading an interview in Starlog with the guy who played Lee Kelso.
He's been in a bunch of. I remember I went over to my parents' house for, like maybe it was Christmas or something, and they were watching Wagon Train,
Yes.
and he was on the episode. Him and Burgess Meredith were both on the episode that was on TV.
This is I found this a Zabrak's lightsaber. It's double-sided. Now this meeting room is from the Cage. This is not what they ended up using on the show.
It looks similar. I mean, they just do a redesign.
Yeah, it's just a totally different room. That's enough, Doc.
Yeah, I have to say though, if you think about it, Kirk had his character pretty much from the beginning.
Yeah. Shatner, he was kind of birthed fully formed into the world. You could take his performance here in this episode and transplant him to, Star Trek 3, and it's the same. It's the same. And it's quite a feat too, because you got to think he played this character from 1966 to 1994. About an hour ago.
Now, I think Scott's report, it would be the one that would probably let's get him near an airlock and jettison him,
or just transport him out into nothing.
Yeah. Well, this was before the days of the Next Generation. You had to be on the pad, didn't you?
Yeah.
Was there ever an episode where they broke that rule?
I don't know. It's hard to say.
Like Hitler.
Oh gosh.
I'm going to play back what you just said, and I want you to listen to it very closely.
Something that's. So he's a mathematician?
I don't think they say that, do they? They probably say at the beginning when they introduce everybody. Now, I always wondered if that's true.
Well, you just
with the penny analogy.
One of the things that bugs me about these uniforms is the dang zipper, like
Yeah, zippers everywhere.
It's
you
like
can see it on Kirk's.
I know they don't even try to hide it either. It's just like, all right, that's a zipper.
I wonder if when they made this, if they had plans to actually air it. I can't remember if they talked about that in the book or not.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure they would. They would want to, because you're talking about this period in history, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I mean that's like something too. When you read those books, you realize just how, like, the penny pinching that went on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this show was notorious for going over budget.
Yeah. I mean, they were constantly working on a budget deficit throughout the show.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. I guess they've kind of given Spock a bit of a green complexion.
A little bit.
This version does look good, though. I love that. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Here we go. Those eyebrows are really out of control.
Yeah, they're super high. He's trying to take flight with those eyebrows. That's a thing that they definitely, that was carried over from the Cage, because he had the gigantic eyebrows in the Cage as well.
And I tell you what, it's Nimoy was. I mean, he when you see him like in real life. Well, I mean, like in not Spock mode.
Yeah.
I mean, he still looks like Spock.
Yeah, of course.
He looks like an alien.
He does. He was very well cast.
And they wanted him off the show.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And
He's known Gary for 15 years.
I feel like the marooning him there is a bad plan too.
Well, yeah, because it's not like stranding him there would arrest the power that's growing in him.
I'm thirsty. I love that is so ghetto looking.
I know. It's just, and there's absolutely no water in that cup.
Water's good.
I love water.
You know, it's funny too. We grew up on this, watching this as a kids, and you know, we look at it now, and obviously the sets and very dated, very set-ish looking. But I mean, when I was a kid, I mean, this was real life.
Oh yeah,
it's like we talked about when we talked about Land of the Lost. I mean,
those are real dinosaurs.
You watch it now, and you're like, I remember when I was a kid. Every time they got chased by Grumpy, I thought they're gonna die. That thing's gonna get them.
Yes. Amazing. Oh, look at Spock with his phaser belt.
Yeah. What is she got? Like a camera? I mean, oh, this was more.
He's got the Emperor's ability. Now, young Kirk, you will die.
Good.
I will not be stranded, Jim, on Delta Vega.
You can never go wrong with some Shatner in pain acting.
I know. The bald fists above the head.
We get some more of some of that great stuff later.
Oh, yes. You know, there was an interesting book, a Star Trek novel, called Q. Oh, look at that.
Got him.
Man. That seemed pretty easy.
Don't they have those hypodermics for real where they don't use needles?
Yeah, they have something like that today. I like how they just leave him standing on the pad. See, and Spock doesn't have the neck pinch yet either.
No, that would have been very.
You saw him. He punched Gary in the stomach in sickbay.
Oh yes, using violence.
Look, he's just standing there.
Yeah, like he's standing there long enough before hitting the ground.
Oh, this is the Delta Vega map painting.
Now, this was something you would have seen like 50 times.
Yes, they reused this quite a bit.
I doubt that they did that for the remastered version. Is
that?
No,
I think they changed them.
Is that Leslie back there? Yeah, it is.
What was that?
Leslie. It was Kirk stand-in. He was the red shirt in like a ton of episodes. I forget the actor's name, but he was Kirk's stand-in when they did lighting.
Gotcha.
I didn't realize he was in this.
Anyway, the book I read called Q Squared. It was about, Trelane being a Q from the original series. The Squire of Gothas,
Yes, one of my favorite performances.
Well, this novel postulated that he was also a Q.
Who, Gary?
No.
Oh yeah, I've heard that theory before about him being a Q.
And but anyway, in this novel, Q was actually stranded. His people trapped him in that energy barrier in the galaxy, at the edge of the galaxy. And so one of the things postulated in this book was that a piece of Q got into Gary, and that's what infected the crew of the Valiant, and that's what infected Gary. And it wasn't on purpose. It's just something that happened when they were thrown into the barrier. But that was kind of an interesting little tie-in from the novels.
Had that been introduced in another novel that they
No,
built
this,
on, or it was just exclusive?
no,
to
this was just something they did for the Q Squared
the...
book.
Oh.
It was kind of an interesting tie-in, a way to tie it into what was happening to him, because he does become sort of, arrogant, and like Q does, and
Yeah, he's definitely
and
out of
very,
control here.
yes. Oh,
I don't know.
well, look at that. He doesn't really sound like that. One of the crew of the Enterprise was struck by lightning the other day, but he miraculously survived with silver eyes and woke up. Well, doesn't really sound like that. We got a problem with that tape. Oh, man.
I'll tell you another thing too. Look how skinny every man in this show
I know.
is.
Yeah, he's probably a $140. Maybe.
They're like a waist size of like 24 or something.
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Kidding.
Back before snacks.
I like how Scotty's like, see, that's how you do it, you ignorant. It fits like a glove, Captain.
Wow, it was just a square.
Yeah. You notice no.
I love this line. Did Spock get the plasma rifle he ordered? And he walks him in the room with it.
Yeah, he's like, okay. There are no red shirts in this episode, if you notice. Red isn't yet part of the. Red wasn't part of the color scheme quite yet.
Yeah, they didn't. They weren't going. This is kind of like a cross. Well, in between the original series and the motion picture.
Yes. And I always like to think, like, after this episode, about 6 months pass, because the Enterprise looks different.
It gets a
And I was like,
refit.
it's refit. They get new uniforms, and then they get sent back out.
That makes sense. I'm surprised they didn't write a novel about that.
Oh,
Kirk,
I'm sure.
You're getting new uniforms.
I'm sure that there is a novel out there somewhere.
All the girls will be wearing uniforms where you can see the bottom of their butt cheeks when
Yes.
they walk around.
They will be receiving long T-shirts to wear. I thought this was a better chance to
God, that
showcase.
sounds just like them.
I thought to showcase the form of the ladies.
Man, it sounds just like them.
That's just something
I remember, it's funny because the first time I saw him really talk, I rented The Cage, the VHS.
Yes, that's when you heard him talk for the first time.
And he did that intro, and I remember listening to him going like...
What you are about to see is a first.
Could you imagine? I don't know if I could be have a conversation with someone who talked like that. I'd be like trying to wrap it up real quick. Okay, that's great.
Oh, poor Kelso.
Yeah, but see now stuff like this when I was a kid. I mean, it's really was jarring.
Yeah, he's like, what the heck? As you can see here, poor Kelso. He's getting. I could have him and George Lucas talking. Hey, Gene. What do you think about sniffing people's fingers? That's something I really like, George. I hope to hear more about it in the future. That's going to Irish, I think.
I know. I know
more about it in the future. Oh no!
Oh no!
Good.
I like too when you become like powerful, you kind of become like a robot.
Yeah, he's like his hand motions.
But even her, when she turned, she's like,
oh, now he's blessing her.
He's hoping that he's actually touching her face because he can't see.
He can't see.
I can't see.
And one thing I do like is the graying of his temples.
Yeah,
how it's starting to take a toll on him physically.
Yeah, and I feel like too, if maybe leaving him on the planet wasn't a bad idea because his body just would have burned itself out.
Well, that's true, but who knows what would have happened? Like, would he become non-corporeal and
Oh, I don't know.
like Red Jack and stalk
Red
the
Jack.
galaxy?
Red Jack. Oh, that slipped out there.
Uh-oh. Kelso is dead, strangled. Don't give him a pill. Well, I was going to use the hypo spray, but if you say so.
I love that's like the kind of writing you would never hear now. Yes, it was the morning light.
Yeah.
The dew was glistening as I saw them
It's like
traverse the landscape. Basically, get the hell out of here. I love the way you cock the.
I know. And it's obviously made of very thin plastic. Although, a few years ago, that thing sold at an auction for ridiculous.
The actual prop?
The actual prop sold at an auction.
Did it ever come back?
No, they never brought it back. It was only used.
Was it in the cage? I think it was in the cage.
Did they use it in the cage?
They might have.
Well, I know they used the same phasers in the cage.
Then I shall make one.
I shall make one. He okay, he just put some plants there. Now this is Talos 4, obviously from the cage, this whole set.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Those plants are pretty real looking.
But look, I think
now is that hold on, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but is that background added or is that from the original?
No. That's from the original. And
oh wow.
The reason good. And it looks great.
Yeah.
But you can tell that they spent a lot more money on this than they would where in the future episodes they would just basically paint the cyclorama with light. You know, there would be no discernible details like those mountain ranges.
It's funny. We've started watching the original Batman animated series, the one that was out in the 90s.
Yeah.
And the first episode of that show, it looks amazing. Like the animation is amazing. And then we watched the second episode, and you could tell, like, okay,
they put all their time and money into the first one.
Now we got to rush them.
Yeah. This was the one we cared about, and now we got to keep cranking them out.
Mm-hmm.
Look how he's standing. It's weird.
Oh, look how that set is all kind of not sturdy.
Ah, crap.
You'll enjoy being a god, Elizabeth.
Well, so much for sneaking in. Catharian. I'm going to guess from the planet Catharis.
I guess. You have to just say like a weird sounding thing before the word apple just to make it.
Can't just say apples.
It's like, hey, look, here's some Red Delicious. No, that's not spacey enough.
Granny apples.
Here's Granny Smith. Granny Smith. Do you want some Granny Smith? Take some.
Can you hear me, James?
We thought that having him say Catharian would make it more exotic. Well, he's eating it really weird. They're like eating around a pit. Give me your apple. Give me your apple.
Yeah, what is that? Is that actually like a fruit? I guess it would have to be.
Yeah, it looks like a mango or something.
I like that dialogue. See how unimportant.
Whoa.
I guess she teleports now.
I know, because he's like looking around. He doesn't see her until then. What are you doing? Get away.
I think she's on Team Gary now, Jim.
Yep.
Yeah, this
At least
is
partly
classic
you
Kirk.
are.
This is all classic Kirk, man. Oh yeah, the classic unearned knowledge.
Yeah. And that was interesting, that last line. He goes, that this is not ADR. You can kind of hear like the studio noise around him.
You think somebody would have caught that thread sticking out of his
Yeah.
collar
Well,
there?
I thought it would be better to leave it in, to show they're not so different from you and me.
Oh my gosh. That's scary.
It
I
was
think you
good
got
that Daner could not see out of her contacts because I was walking around behind her doing things that she probably wouldn't like.
would probably get me sent to HR.
Oh my gosh. Oh, look at the roll.
Oh yeah.
No hesitation. You know, they certainly didn't redo the sort of
Well, I
the
think
really the out of control visual effects for the phaser.
I've been contemplating the death of an old friend.
Oh really?
Uh-oh.
Who?
Oh, here we go. They try to explain that joke, you know.
Yeah. I can't remember what
Racquetball.
sticking out. Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, because they used to play racquetball a lot.
Oh yeah, okay.
And
He's even more gray.
yeah, he is. He's getting older.
I like the fact that even in his godhood, he's kind of like a little bit. Did you see what I did there? I put the R instead of a T.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I know what's up.
Kirk is sort of like, I don't really know what to do right now.
Yeah. You know, they did. Do you remember those? IDW did those like those photo comics
Yes.
where they
yeah.
told new adventures using
Pictures from the show.
pictures, and they did a sequel to this episode, but I don't remember.
If it was good or not.
I don't remember the story, but you know,
Oh,
it
here we
always
go.
seems.
There's some classic Kirk right now, Shatner right now.
Yeah. And he.
Oh, see, Kirk knows, man. To you, not to both of you.
He's like.
And
This
the
is
music
it.
goes with it so well.
I know. Oh,
Ah,
I
yeah.
have had enough of you.
This is really, really good stuff. I know we kind of like joke about it, but it's really good. Here,
Oh,
she's
here
like
she
warning
goes.
her.
She's
gonna-
like, you will die.
Wow.
Oh no, they're back and forth.
He's like,
But,
I mean, look at the
you know,
faces he's making, man.
I always thought that this would not have stopped him. Dropping a boulder on him, you know.
Really?
I
Well, I
don't-
think he still had a human body, but of course, that maybe they negate that a little bit with the taking the full front of a
Yeah, it's a phaser.
laser blast to the chest. And there we go again.
Oh, we got some good. This is almost Star Trek 3 Krug stuff.
Oh, it is. You're right.
I mean, with the chops and the.
I don't see too much stuntman stuff going on right now.
No.
That might have been.
Well, but at least the stuntman looks like Shatner.
Sure
Not
gets
like-
ripped.
Not like some of the later episodes
Oh my gosh.
where it's like all of a sudden Kirk turns into like this 52-year-old dude.
I will say though, no, that's a stuntman. I will say like there are episodes where Kirk or Shatner does do some
Yeah,
kind
he
of
takes some bumps.
he does some impressive stuff. But I mean, realistically, I mean, anyone who's done any sort of physical activity, you can do something perfectly right and then just pull something.
Sure.
I like, nope,
What?
nope, you, nope, no,
No,
nope.
wait. You're not
Nope.
gonna get me. But like he's like literally 2 feet away. Okay, that was not.
Oh, how now? Why did he fall in? That doesn't make any sense.
But see, now
I don't know.
I
I
just-
buy it. I think it. I mean, we'd have to squash him.
I
If it
mean,
didn't.
sure. But he was down in that hole. I mean, I don't know.
Well, there's your sequel.
And then Daner,
She's done.
help me take this mouse off.
Well, you should be. Look at the claw marks on his face.
Yeah, I know. What the heck was going on there? He touches her with 2 fingers. It's like, okay. Yeah, he's got the ripped shirt, the blood, the sweat.
Enterprise
He's in pretty good shape here too.
Yep.
from Captain Kirk.
They're using those cage communicators too. The big
Oh my
clear,
gosh.
fat, clear ones.
Are you there? I don't guess we get an epilogue here, do we? No, we do. We
do. See, that's the enlarged.
Stardate
That's all he got.
dish.
Out of all that, he just hurt his wrist.
Dr. Elizabeth Dana. He had noticed she gave her last performance of her duty.
This is kind of similar to the end of Motion Picture.
Yeah.
I want his service record to end that way. He didn't ask for what happened.
That's okay. Mine will contradict yours.
I believe there's some hope for
Hey,
us after all, Mr. Spock.
Don't try to be my friend.
Oh, we got a little
Okay.
end
All right.
humor.
Now, see, that's why you need to watch this episode first, because that's like sort of the beginning of their friendship. Really.
Yeah. James Goldstone would not come back.
Nope.
Samuel Peebles did. He did another one, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Can't remember.
I think he wrote some. He wrote an animated episode as well,
Oh, did he?
and an episode of Next Generation.
Now the cool stuff that I'm glad they did is they left the original ship stills
Yeah,
in this.
in the end credits and stuff.
Yeah. So
They did. Yeah, they didn't mess with the end credits at all. And this is the only time you hear this version of the end titles.
Oh,
except
really?
Except for I think the cage. This is a slightly different orchestration.
Yeah, it has a little more of an otherworldly sound.
Exactly.
La, la, la.
Oh,
gosh,
Susan Oliver.
Oh my gosh, Herbert
this was my-
Solo.
That is my favorite part of the show.
I was there when she was putting the green makeup all over her body.
Oh man. So that is Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Excellent
Yes.
episode.
The beginning of Star Trek as we would come to know it, with the familiar crew, or most of the familiar crew. We're still missing a few people there.
Uhura,
Yes.
McCoy.
McCoy wasn't there yet, but it's always fun to revisit that episode, and we hope that you also enjoyed listening to it, even if you weren't watching it. Maybe you've already memorized Where No Man Has Gone Before. I mean, if you've got your life together, I mean, you should have it memorized.
I mean, my
At
gosh,
this point.
come on.
So,
I remember renting these things at Blockbuster so I could make video dubs.
yes, and I remember sometimes when I would go to Showbiz Video in the Clinton Highway Shopping Center down by where Kmart used to be, they had VHSs that had 2 episodes on them. They were I don't know. I don't recall ever seeing them really any other place besides this Showbiz Video, but they would have 2 episodes on them. They weren't and they were not like chronologically collected either. Like I think I rented one that had like Mary and City on the Edge of Forever on it or something. And this is how I, because I really got into Star Trek after Star Trek 3 was in theaters. And at that time, unfortunately, it just wasn't in syndication where I lived in Knoxville, Tennessee. It wasn't, it was sporadically shown. The original series was. So I got to see a lot of these episodes for the first time on video, on VHS.
Really? I grew
Yeah.
up watching them. I mean, they were in syndication. I think they came on the weekends, and I
Yeah.
remember watching them on the weekends. And because I mean, I was very familiar with Star Trek by the time the motion picture came out, and
Yeah.
I was excited to see the movie.
Well, I had only seen, I think, one episode. The Devil in the Dark was the first episode I ever saw, and I'll never forget it just because it's kind of a memorable episode.
I had a Mr. Spock Mego figure.
It's too bad you don't still have that.
No.
That would be cool. But yeah, and now to think that we have all these episodes at our fingertips, in better quality and condition than we could have ever imagined,
and uncut for syndication.
Yeah, that's true. But we hope you enjoyed this inaugural episode of Trekking in the 25th Century. We'll have to get Matt onto one of these things once his tube trots clear up, because Matt also is a big Star Trek fan, and he definitely would have some things to say about these episodes too. But yeah, keep listening. Stay with us. We've got still season 8 of the main shows still going strong, and we're gonna have some new episodes out for you very soon.
And we will be continuing franchise fatigue.
I grow fatigued, Doctor. Yes, we've got more to say on that. And yeah, just keep listening. Tell your friends. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. And we will see you next time. Mike, live long and prosper.
Likewise.
I find myself growing fatigued, Doctor.
You know you can't live without this content. So subscribe to the Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us next time as we take you into the 25th century.